How you doing? How you doing? Time for the Saturday. All positive words, right? Right. There's no not in the universe. There's only polarity, right? And when you use the word not, you're just flipping polarities, not whatever you're talking about, you know? So yeah, the universe doesn't see that part. Like when you vocalize or spell something, write something, and it's an intention. Like around in New Mexico, we have over the last 100 years a lot of drunk driving accidents, right? Fatalities, and and DWIs and all that shit, But the campaign they came up with was don't drink and drive, right? Don't drink and drive. And so it's basically, right, the universe just sees drink and drive. And so, yeah, like when you're skiing, if you think about the trees, you're attracted to them, right? You don't want to be attracted to trees while you're skiing. Positive visualization. For me in sports, it's really easy and accessible, right, to visualize something that's athletically possible, because then it's like you take action and the results are immediate, you know. So there's no question really of the success of the visualization process, right? And so when you're visualizing, obviously you don't want to see the worst case, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to try to do this. I'm just going to focus on worst case, worst case, worst case, right? And when you're skiing, right, worst case, hit a tree, hit a rock, right? So, you don't want that to happen. So let's do the still 3 breaths because y'all are pussies. Fucking can't handle. I mean, tell me, right? Make a comment. Tell me how many breaths per station, right? So double the breath count per location of your hands. And that's how many breaths you do, right? And if you count breaths, right, 18 breaths, what is that? It's like really, it's nothing at all. And it's the exact action that is required, right? Right. It's prana, right? Oxygen burns, That shit fucking fuel. That is fuel. Oxygen is fuel. Okay, starting now. Why does it not look right? It's my shoulder, I guess. Make adjustments. Remember the silent in-breath and the silent out-breath. And extend upwards on the out-breath. Stretch that spine upwards. Okay, one more. I hope you're all there. But yeah, remember on the out breath also silent, right? This will let you access, right, the silence, right? And right, when I say that with that extra, you know what I mean, right? You know what I mean. And then also, right, your spine is being pulled upwards and separated and allowing movement of fluid and energy, you know? And you make yourself taller, you know. But it like that also is like creates this feeling. You can feel it. It's energetic, right? Suddenly the whole column is accessible, right? Suddenly the whole column is accessible uh, for the energy flow, right? In the toroidal fucking fashion, right? And we all know, right? Don't we? Since we watched Thrive, I haven't seen Thrive 2. I wonder if you guys have. Sorry, looking at the comments. So, sorry, just got to take a moment here. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. I turned my back and I shut the door, turned the lock, took one step more away from the door, paused, turned my head, turned back, unlocked the door. Turn the knob, pull it for a crack. Gonna take a look and a step back. All right. So yeah, the infrastructure. That's what I just, right? So that's what I've been threatening to talk about and alluding to. The infrastructure that is required, right? Because the human network, right? And the exchange that happens, right? So the network is the structure of our society, right? And if you can think of what a network is, right? It's a node connected by uh, conduits of energy and information, right? So nodes and connections, right? To nodes that creates a lattice structure, right? And this is, right, if we were going to visualize what it is the society is it's just a network, right? And people are the nodes, and the lines between the nodes are the lines of communication, right? Like the exchange. Copy. Just we keep talking about the exchange. Is it starting to make sense now? Those of you who are new, I know all y'all who get it are like, fuck you, I get it. It's fucking so easy to understand. Yeah. Side note, remember Plato's cave, right? Was it Plato who devised that thought experiment of what civilization is the technological development of a storytelling device, right? That requires, you know, light, right, to cast shadows, right? This polarity. So it's a false polarity. I think that's what he was fucking saying. I just finally fucking realized it. My fucking God. You know, it's like, oh yeah, it's like, it's a farce, right? He's saying that it's a theater. Like, yeah, I get that. Like back in fucking philosophy class, right? In college. But no. What it's saying is that it's light and shadow, but it's an artificial casting, right? It's a casting of the shadow, which creates the story, the narrative that we're all being told, right? Plato's motherfucking cave. So yeah, it's a false polarity. It says it right there. It's just a puppet show, right? Using light and casting shadows with paper puppets. You know, it's all just so 2D. You see how dropping to 2D is always a problem. You want to always elevate. Right? More degrees of freedom, more information. Okay, yeah. So now, if you think about a higher dimensional structure of the crystal of human society, right? So you add a degree of freedom for which the nodes to take place in, right? Right. So this just allows for a more complete picture, a more complete picture of, right? If you're going to visualize it, make it into geometry, right? Because that's what it is. It's just like how, you know, if you're thinking of pre-fucking, or the invention of numbers, right? It's like, what represents one thing, right? Just think of an abacus, and it's like a little bead, right? It's like, well, here's one bead representing one thing, you know? And then, oh, look, here's another bead representing another thing. And then there's another one, and then it's like, oh, wow. I can recognize that you can organize these three things into a shape that is observable in reality, right? This shape is like, you can see it in some places, like the top of mountaintops or the way that cliffs come together. The cone of, you know, a mountain peak, some of them are perfectly fucking cone shaped, you know. And, you know, looking at that from a distance, you're like, oh, look, it's a triangle. And then you like start playing with pebbles in the sand, and you got a fucking, oh man, you can make the correlation, right? You can understand relationship, right? I mean, that's it right there. Geometry is relationship. Space, right? First space, and then relative distance, right? Which is why the Trinity is required to create fucking the universe, right? Because no location can be found without triangulation, right? Without a observer of 2 points relative to each other, and then those relative to the observer, right? Is this making sense, right? Or do you think this is a stretch? Just fucking gotta report this shit. So that's cool. So the network, right? The motherfucking network. I started off talking about when I finally started saying something. It was the infrastructure, right? That is required, right? That we can use, because we can recognize there's a distance between the nodes, right? And so to maximize this transfer of energy and information, right? That's the whole fucking idea, is to maximize that shit and not curtail it and funnel it to the top, right? To create this mechanism, which is what we have. And I get fucking excited thinking about it because it's so obvious, it's so transparent, it's not natural, right? It's installed. It's an installed mechanism based on what works on our fucking, you know, psychology. You know, if this happens, then we do this. It's like, and then we get programmed to fucking just operate in that fashion. And then it becomes easy, right, to direct that fucking narrative, right? And so when I got excited there, it's like I was thinking about how there's this thing. It's a mechanism put on top of our original exchange network, right? Which is we are the nodes, and then the communication is the lines between the nodes. Energy and information, which ends up being like goods and services after thousands of generations, right? But it's still the same exchange, and it's a I get excited because it's obviously a parasitic mechanism, you know, whatever it is, you know, whether it's like, I mean, you just really got to consider what it is this thing that is attached to this network, and it stratifies the network, right? And creates a suction mechanism that works automatically, right? That just sucks resources from below to the top, right? And so it's just, and then you have this, right, in the ghost, right, in the accumulated storage of fucking currency, right? You have the inverted fucking pyramid. Boom, right? Straight from the top. And all of that, those resources are basically harbored, right, and stored. Right? They create a funnel. Right? And for example, the most obvious is you know, our relationship with the third world since industrialization, right? And you know, South American parts of, you know, the Middle East, you know, if you're considering the English American thing, like, you know, they did the same fucking shit, except England, you know, they cut their losses at a certain point and just focused on a few things. I'm just saying, right, that there's a resource funnel set up that sucks resources to the first world from the third world, right? And it's basically, it's like we're getting that shit for free, you know. and it hurts the economy of third world. Having that dichotomy, right, that difference creates a it's that whole, the first guy in the 70s or whatever who was like, okay, we're gonna fucking do all of our labor offshore now because we can get it at like a tenth the price. It's like just realizing that it's like, the relative metric of what the people are subject to, the economic environment creates this disparity, right? And so, yeah, to permit this offshore labor for manufacturing, right? You're comprehending me. Is an exploitation of that difference, right? And that difference is maintained between the first and the third world in order for the World Bank, right? You guys know all this shit. You should, right? How corrupt it is, right? The World Bank lends a country, money because it knows it has a cache of something under the soil or something in there, and in order to, it's like, oh, look, here's all this money, and then all that money has to be spent on infrastructure to extract said resource, right? And so all of the money is spent, and then there's no improvement of their economy or infrastructure of the actual country. It's just to extract the resource, and so the loan is not. You can't pay it back because there's been no investment into the actual country. It's only been the investment is to create a conduit for whatever resource there is there to come fucking out. And so then they can't pay back their loans, and then it's all this shit. It's like, right, and this is permitted, right? It's like wholesale fucking piracy. You know what I'm saying? But right, so I always get like drawn into that kind of aspect of it. But the infrastructure is sans fucking parasite, right? That I propose, right? The infrastructure that I'm making, right? And I want your help to make, right? Because this is for us, right? This is for everyone. And so it's a free, right? The right of a living being, right? To of equitable exchange with other living beings, right? Without fucking there being a middleman taking out a portion of it, for their fee and their protection fee, right? It's not necessary, and it hurts us, right? And in order for that to stay in place, right, then, right, there always has to be a threat. So without a threat, there's no reason for paid protection. So, right, this, like, the alternative is to have a network that is completely free, right? And it's equitable exchange with others based on their own, like, people are free to go towards and, interact, freedom of association based on their own fucking discernment, right? They're free to associate, right? That's our right as living beings, right? And we're free to exchange, right? Based on that association, right? Because that's what maximizing the exchange would be. It's like making the structure of the network the most efficient for transfer of energy and information, and we're born to do that already. We're born to have the total freedom to do that. And so this right, I'm not even going to say it, but you understand what I'm saying, right? It's like paid protection, right? That's what we're paying for. And so that has to be a scarcity model, right? The scarcity model of value has to be in that, right? Paid protection requires the scarcity model, because scarcity always implies there's a threat, right, of a dwindling supply, right? Supply chain, woo, 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 trigger fucking word. But right, so all of this, right, and I just what I said, right, just now, a second ago, supply chain, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? It's reinforcement and maintenance of the fucking of scarcity, right? And so this is that thing, right? This is that abomination that's attached itself to our sacred exchange, the energy. It's attached itself to extract energy from it, right? And so we can, right? All of the it's the Plato's cave, right? So in order to maintain that fucking attachment, right, that like mechanical device that like mines energy from our fucking natural exchange, right? The puppet show, right? Plato's cave fucking shadow and light show, right? Maintains that idea, right? Maintains that idea. The scarcity model, right? And so how you get to immediately to the abundance model is to realize that you're not your body. You know, it's an amazing gift to have a body, right? And to spend this time here, right? But as I said before, right, just like we should maximize the human network, right, to work efficiently and properly, right? And if it did, then everyone would be fucking killing it, right? There doesn't have to be this disparity, right? We just maximize it, right? And so that's what we're built to do already. Yeah. Yeah. This efficiency, right? So, right, that's where I was headed. Back on track, y'all. Right, just like we maximize here our network, right, and it is the network that makes us who we are. Relationship, right? A human being without relationship to others and to the environment is what it is. How do you even define it, right? So we make that, right, work the best, and how you do that is you make sure that there is access to the sources of value, right? But anyway, an immediate fucking delivery for yourself, right, into the fucking the concept of value as infinite value supply, like it's always being added to, right, the supply of value, right, which is what we exchange in order to fucking live here in this you know, the 3D portion, right, the 4D portion of it, right? And I did mention before that it's possible to actually be up, you know, to have access to higher dimensions in order to fucking operate better here. Right? And this is what I'm getting at. This is what I'm slowly getting at, right? Is that our bodies are just our, like, vehicle, you know? there's this higher dimensional aspect, right? The transcendental component of our makeup, right, is not physical, right? And it's not gone when the body is damaged to the point of, you know, complete failure, right? Fatality. And so, but that's like when you're a kid and you're competing for something or something and you lose out and you're disappointed, like bitterly disappointed, like as disappointed as Neymar, you know? And the coach tells you, you know, something like, there's always next time, you know? It's like 4 years, man, 4 years, we'll still be training. We'll be ready next time. And it's like, it doesn't consolate, right? It's no consolation, right? As a kid, you're like, you want to say, fuck you. I wanted to win, man, you know? And, right, that's kind of like if, you know, we have a limited time here. And that's what makes it so special. I mean, obviously, right? It's like if it was infinite, then the time that we had to operate in this part of the totality, right? It wouldn't, there would be no urgency, you know? It's like if you're playing a video game, right? Or if you're playing chess, right? And you have infinite amount of time to find the right move, right? Right. So it's like, there is this aspect of like proper fucking operation just based on the time scale, right? Time frame aspect. The illusion of the passage of time, right, in this portion of the totality is what makes it fucking observable, right? So it's like this slowed down, solid, you know, part of the totality that we get to walk around in, man, right? And we get to create fucking something new in. And this, you know, so that's why I'm appalled, right? Right. It's not that you don't learn to do this individually, right? There's something more fucking sacred about this place. There's something, actually, everything is not more sacred, just sacred, right? So to not treat it as sacred, right? That it somehow what I've been describing as like our bodies are like our avatar, right? Like our vehicle that we get to drive, right? Our spirit body just driving this thing. And there's something about tell me where I was. You know, it's like, yeah, right. The corollary is that like this is like a video game, you know, but it's just, it kind of has that effect to it, you know, a little bit, because you're like, you know, here for a short period of time, and there's an objective, right? And it's like, what's the point if there's not an objective? And like, there's no reason to pursue an objective if you have an infinite amount of time to do it. Right? And so this thing, you know, this churning wheel of humanity, you know, that has gone on over time. I mean, what I'm saying is like, I'm always arguing that there's something broken about it, right? But the counter argument is that brokenness actually is what will put us in the place that makes it possible for us to make that transition, to return back to the sacred, right? But at the same time, it's like, you know, it's like what it also makes possible is for us to be trapped, right? It's like we're in this moment now. I think this portion of, you know, at the crossroads of the destiny of fucking civilization, right? Of humanity, right? Is right now. And so that, like, we can either like make this transition back to the sacred, right? Or fucking get put in a fucking shell that is like, you know, a stasis shell, like where we just repeat, right? And there's no chance to fucking get out. And that's what this thing is. This like parasite wants to capture this part, right? And become like whether or not it's like the way the elites operate, right? Because they're like apex parasites. That's the way I describe them, you know, because they create these mechanisms in order to extract, right, currency, right, hedge fund, for example, right, betting on fucking failure, right, betting on loss, right, hedge your bets. But so you could look at it that way, that it's like it's all about money and all that shit, and that's a limited viewpoint. Like there's a spectrum, right, of being able to perceive, right, and all the way perception is, you know, total negation of tradition and the past, right? Because all of that clouds your vision, right? Colors the way you see things, right? So excuse me, this returning to the sacred, right? Returning to the sacred. There, whether or not you look at it as it's just the elite, right? The top of the fucking cabal, the, you know, the pyramids, the, you know, the capstone cabal of this world that runs all of the economy and everything, and games it all so that they can just extract and then bombard everyone with fucking agenda through the narrative, right? And so that everyone is like, on average, you know, bell curve for each tribe, right? It's like you're basically going to get the majority reaction that is predictable from each tribe, right? And so it's so easy to fucking drive these things, right? Especially, you know, whatever, right? So that's a lot where a lot of conspiracy theorists are, right? That's where they are. And so that's right, that's behind schedule, y'all, right? Because you're just falling for the trap, right? And which is why the podcast thing is starting to like sputter a little. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed in the past that where my interest wanes, it becomes kind of, and it's not because of me, it's just like this average trend, right, that starts happening where you get tired of the cycle, you know, of talk, right? And so then you're looking for new, you know, the programmed response is like, I'm going somewhere else for my entertainment now. You know? So shit isn't hitting it anymore. Or like you actually get passionate about something, right? And, you know, so back to it, it's like, to kind of wrap this up. To wrap this one up, this infrastructure, right? Unfettered, right? And to understand that actually, yeah, coming here is a great gift, right? And why not, right, maximize our potential at honoring that gift with, you know, the embellishment of the totality, right? That's the idea. And that's what our gift is. And that's what we can do. If we can see this as that and take it like as, and to treat it as sacred, because it is sacred, you know, it's a sacred gift to be alive. and you gotta fucking just be like jumping for joy every morning, you know. And you know, I have to admit, right? Like I've been, it ain't easy, right? That's part of the deal, right? And that's why the individual journey is, right, really fucking important, right? And that you have the access in here, in your vehicle, your bridge, right, to the unseen, right? It's the bridge to the transcendental. That's how you transcend, right? Through this body, right? That's how you transcend. And so, yeah, right. So you do the energy work, right? You recognize that, and you recognize the importance, not just for your own, like the ego look at like life is short, fucking live it, right? That is fucking absolutely true, but go towards your passions, like what makes you fucking, you know, get your juices flowing, right? And that will be, all of that is like good. This is where it gets tricky, right? So I don't want to get caught in this neither world of like, of the description, because just like the great work that the fucking Freemasons want to do, right? They think that it's what I'm talking about, right? Which is this return to the sacred, but instead it's been corrupted, you know, obviously, right? And the only way to do it as a collective, right, is to individually arrive at the point at which it is possible, right, at which the relationships that we have, right, are operating from this position of, you know, of love, right, which is a non-polar position, right? And so then you don't have conflict. Right, then the actual sacred exchange, the sacred human network, can operate at full capacity, right? Because it is not being, you know, impeded, right, with the resistor of conflict, right? And that's what government is, right? A governor on an engine, right? This is a strange jump for some of you, but if you understand this, right? If you understand this, is like, when I was talking about paid protection, right? It requires the constant conflict, right? In order for that to be sellable to us, right? And that's what government is. It's a governor on the fucking engine, right? The conflict reduces the total capacity of the human network, right? Of the human value exchange, right? Because all of that energy is wasted on fucking conflict, right? It's fucking stupid. Like, and then so that is like to maintain that is everything for this, you know, corrupted system that we have to like turn our backs on, you know. Bear with me, y'all. I'm not gathering my thoughts. I'm just like, I don't know why this is happening, but it just does. Yeah. So, right, when you these guys who have all of this good juice, right? These entertainers and famous people and shit, they don't understand, right? I don't even think they're aware that when they are promoting the scarcity model, right, and not recognizing that, because they want to feel like they're great, because celebrity is a popularity contest, right? And so that is the scarcity model of value, right? And I've explained this before. It just shows that these, you want to feel like celebrities are a rare supply, right? And so they must be valuable, right? And so that's not the only way for the collective to appreciate something that is generally good for all, that comes from one source, right? And one source, one node in the network, right? But what I'm saying is that these celebrities don't even realize that they're promoting the scarcity model when they say that innovation comes from competition, right? And so if you take competition to the extreme of the spectrum of what competition means, that's fucking war. That's war. And so, right, that's not it. Right, that's not it. That's a waste of energy and information. So it's possible to reestablish the sacred exchange, right? And we can use. So I was saying before, it's like all of this journey that we've gone on as a civilization for 8,000 years, right? Since, the rebuilding of civilization after the fucking massive cataclysm, right? You just have to know that happened. So, and you have to get over it like it's not an opinion. And Graham Hancock's fucking, right, it makes it hard to, anyway. Yeah, get over it. Fucking that shit happened. Humanity was reestablished in a lower state, right, than before. And we are a species with amnesia, as Graham Hancock says. And so, anyway, right, this whole journey that we've gone on since then, operating on the scarcity model, right, in order to make sellable the, to rationalize the existence of a ruling class, which is this paid protection idea or government. We've arrived at the point now where, right, this is the singularity. The real singularity is this do or die fucking situation that we present ourselves with, where we can actually fucking return to the sacred, right? To recognize now again that this is sacred, what we're doing, right? And to negate or to abandon, right? We have the capability to make it, the technological knowledge, the warehouse of understanding that we built all of these 8,000 years permits us to create a sacred human network. It allows it to be possible, right? Because, and it also allows this, stasis, right, element to be possible too, where we stay in this cycle forever and almost like we lose our souls, because our souls come here to. This is good. It's like it makes the game harder. You're playing on a hard mode, right? When we have this parasite in here, you're playing it on hard mode. But also, it's easier, right? In a way, it's not hard mode, right? Because you're not even completing the objective, which is to embellish, right, the totality, not to fucking make it ugly, So, yes, embellish the totality. We can build the infrastructure that permits us to return to that fucking mode of operation, right? Which is the abundance model of value, which recognizes that value is always increasing. And if we promote fucking living, then that value supply fucking increases even faster. And we get access to new areas of information and understanding that we never thought that we would ever get to, because we were too focused on what we already knew, So yeah, we can take that step up. It's fucking no problem, bro. Right? It's really like to recognize that, right? Like, so you're playing the motherfucking game wrong, right? You think you have it on hard mode with all this mayhem and conflict and death, right? But you actually have it on the mode that gets you to a point where there's no more reason to play the game, which is why would your soul even come here? There's no like, the reason to play the game is this creativity, right? This sacred gift that we are given to create in alignment with the polarities of the universe, right? instead of this false polarity and this puppet show, this shadow puppet show that we got. Is it starting to sink in? All right, I much appreciate those of you who come by, and also those of you who watch later. Yeah, do the qigong, because that thing where you do the silent out breath, right, and you extend upward, and you're in the proper positioning, right. You can feel it, right? You can the silence. All right, love. Stay tuned.